So I decided to like go through all my comments on the channel and whatnot. And I came through some old comments. And I never knew that people get so anal about thumbnails and titles. Oh, that's clickbait. Oh, that is how dare you, and the forsaken thing. So I thought, you know what? Let's switch it up and see what people's response will be like when I say this is a Bitcoin live stream and this is a Bitcoin live, and then a nice happy smiley face, because apparently psychologically people only like to click on people's happy faces, right? They don't want to be involved in that miserable looking face, or they don't want to see anything sad. Yeah, everywhere you go, it's all negative. And so, yeah, if you like the thumbnail, bring us some flavor. And I'm just going to do it throughout this week. I'm just going to make the basic of thumbnails and titles. And if that winds people up, then I'm just going to stick with zero title and put zero title and blackout thumbnail and just guess what we're going to be talking about. I think I should do that, actually. I'll make you guess what we could be talking about. Because if I tell you in the thumbnail and the title, you're not going to watch. Let's be honest. Everything's summed up in the title. And because I spill my guts and shoot my load all the time by 5 minutes into the live stream, we don't end up having anything to talk about. But anyways, what's good, ladies and gentlemen? I hope you're all well. Bit of a mad day. It's going to be quite a tricky day, if I'm quite frank with you guys. Just to break it all down in terms of news, we've had so much happening, and it's all now starting to lean to probably more political. You've obviously got tensions going over in the UK with getting ready to kick out Starmer, about flipping time. More importantly, you've obviously got this story that China's trying to get everybody homeland to stop getting involved in US treasuries and thus forcing the yields to go up. The stock market is clearly in that resilience, given that spending on AI, only last week when we had the Anthropic story, and then, of course, Amazon coming out with their expenditure on AI going up to 200 billion. And then the market's like, we can't have that. You can't be spending so much money. We want the earnings to be given to us as shareholders. But then the market then says, okay, let's just keep on going up because they are spending and AI needs to continuously advance. I mean, don't worry about the fact that Taiwan semiconductor business came out saying that, 40% of the chip supply is not going to be distributed to the United States. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about the fact that Google is offering a $20 billion bond. Do you understand what that is? Google is offering its investors, it's offering the market a bond for $20 billion. Why would they do that? Why don't you just go and borrow some money, man? Go get some dollars. Go to your banks and just say, yo, can we borrow some money? No, thank you, Google says. We're going to take matters into our own hands. We're going to become our own bank. We're going to offer out a bond to investors. Given that we've been killing it so far with regards to our earnings, we're going to do business our way. Why is that a bad thing? Because they're not coming over to the Fed. They're not coming over to the US government. They're not interested in US debt. They'd rather just work with what they've got and offer out a bond. What do you think MicroStrategy's been doing? It's giving out convertible bonds. Micron Technology, convertible bonds, 600 million. Like, they're doing it all in-house. Remember the Silicon Valley Bank story where all the banks came in and bought everything up and saved the day? They're starting to become more resourceful, which is not a great thing, because if they're not going over to the bonds market in the US, that sort of undermines things. You want Google to borrow money. I mean, the last time Meta came out and said they need to borrow 600 million, okay, their share price tanked. So Google's like, you know what, we're not going to do that. We're just going to offer a convertible bond and see how that will work out. And when you look at Google's price and everything's shooting up and you've had a great stellar earnings and the expansion behind AI is doing great, investors are going to be like, yeah, I'll take that. Household name, I'm familiar with that. All right, and I'll take on that money. That's quite a problem when you think about it, because they're not coming into the main purpose of what this Federal Reserve is all about. Okay, it's just how much money are they going to be distributing? Are they going to be printing as such? Now, we've got some speakers coming out today, which is very important, okay? We've got the Hammond. Let me just make sure it's Hammond, whatever his name is. Here we go. So it's Hammock and Logan. Both are voters on the FOMC board, okay? It's very important that you understand that when an FOMC speaker is speaking, understand if he's voting or not, because then what he says or she says is going to have influence in the marketplace. They're going to be speaking later on today, and Donald Trump today is going to be having a conversation on Fox News. So that's going to be interesting to hear what he has to say. But with regards to all the tensions that are happening overseas, you've got the Iranian government effectively saying, look, we'll dilute the enrichment program if you do start taking some sanctions off. The US is there like, okay, what are these sanctions? What could we be doing? And there's a lot of back and forth, okay? So when you understand that the marketplace right now is filled with geopolitical events, the only asset classes that we can really look and lean towards is the dollar and, of course, gold. Any equities that are going to move up and down. I mean, we just had the core retail sales coming into play suggesting zilch from the consumer. They're not spending money. Now, that is a sign that we need to cut the interest rates. But equally, it means now Walsh has got his path to inflation untacked. Why? Because if consumers are not spending money, that means they're not influencing the idea of inflation going up. So if they're not going to spend money, that means the idea of inflation could be coming down. So if we keep things as they are, and of course, if the consumer just behaves himself and doesn't spend money, then we can drop inflation down. Happy days. We can then project out the idea of future rate cuts. But the stock market is going up on the back of AI. And if investors really and truly understand the problem that we've got in regards to shortages of chips, it only means that AI is going to get expensive on the chips that are going to be available to be distributed out. So remember, only 60% of the chips that are being created are being distributed to the US. Taiwan Semiconductor said that only 40% or 40% will be impossible to get out. Okay? So we've got a little bit of a problem in the semiconductor story, all right? Supply, which only inflates prices, which then can only make investors feel like, I don't want to be involved in that. So let's break down what's going on. Have a look at what's going on across the board with a few equities in the yields, the Japanese. Let's just get it all started off with that bad boy. So this is a great story for Japan, all right? Her conservative approach, well, cutting the taxes and increasing the spending is not so much conservative, but she's got to effectively stimulate the Japanese economy. She's got to stimulate investors to get into the Japanese bond. Going over into the Japanese bond market itself, you can see the yield is coming down, which is good news. We need to see the yield to move lower. This is not sustainable at 2.2%. But the problem that we've got is this. What she's actually doing is creating the yen to go down even lower. Going over into the yen, you can see now it is marking up, but the yen itself is going to be trading in a bit of a sideways fashion until we know exactly where we are with the impact of her tax cutting and her increased expenditure. She's got to get the yield on the bond down. She has to get it down. And she thinks that that's one way of doing it because naturally it's going to encourage investors to get into the yen. But the problem that we've got is the Japanese yields themselves are so high because investors know that their bonds that they're holding are effectively worthless off the back of their really weak yen. So if we do get a rate hike in the future, because they did stipulate that they are going to hike their rates, okay? But at the same time, with this loose fiscal policy that she's got, means that she's going to be effectively putting money into the system. And that's good news, which naturally means that the yen's going to be then sold and put elsewhere. So that means the dollar is going to rise. And then if investors are going to be going into equities, that means equities will also rise too. That is a little bit of a problem for the euro. That's a bit of a problem for Bitcoin, given that if the risk sentiment is optimistic, you'd naturally assume that Bitcoin's price is going to go up. Speaking of Bitcoin, let's go and have a look at that bad boy. Bitcoin is just stuck. And I'll be honest with you guys, I don't think we're going to get too much movement today. We're probably going to see a little bit of a move up or down, but tomorrow is the heavyweight day. All right, we've got non-farm payrolls. That's going to nip in the bud where we are with interest rates. It's going to tell us where everything is. They've revised it yet again. This was at 70,000 and have now revised it lower to 66. That could mean that even with basis of the ADP non-farm employment data that came out last week, that came in at 22,000 when the projection was 46. They've now revised this from 70 down to 66. That could mean that there could be an actual lower reading coming out. And if there is a lower reading, that's the alarm bells, all right? But we do need to see the markets correct because the disparity of what's going on right now is not making sense. Investors are going into AI at the fear that missing out on potential earnings. They're telling us there's a slowdown in the number of chips that are being created. That's going to hurt earnings in the future. If anything, it's really going to test if businesses and consumers are going to just take on the products and pay the high premiums. And I don't think they will do that, given that NVIDIA, in my opinion, is not going to focus on the retail market anymore. Would you get involved in a business that sells 1,000 of your products, or would you go to a customer that buys 50,000 of your products? You're going to say, forget opening every single day. I'll just do my business with this one customer and sell that. That's exactly where NVIDIA's going. My expectation and belief in the future, ladies and gentlemen, is we've absorbed the idea of software, okay, in terms of AI, right? We've done that. It's saturated right now. Second ChatGPT came out. Look at all these other code languages that have come out and all these other AIs that are on the back of it, okay? The next thing now is infrastructure. Why do you think Trump is adamant about nuclear with Iran? US doesn't have any nuclear reactors. They don't really want it. I don't know why, given that China has 48 and it's got plenty running. China is going to be the main supplier of nuclear power, if I'm quite frank with you, okay? But on top of that, if we're going into data center creation and the big demand for infrastructure on AI is the next thing, we've had software peripherals and what have you. Now we're going into hardware. And that means once we get data center creation, that means we need something to power it to keep to the demand of AI. And small molecular nuclear companies that are listed on the US stock markets are, in my opinion, going to be the winners. We spoke about quantum computing, and that increased by 1,900%. Go and pay attention to small molecular companies on the stock market. Go and have a look at their business. Go look at where they are. If the majority of them are around open land, you can appreciate that that is worthy of a data center plot. TSMC is doing what? It's going over to Japan and building factories out there. They haven't got a problem. They're loving life. That's why I'm telling you, Japan is the next big thing. Makes sense why Buffett has got his position in cash and he's paying close attention to Japan. Value is going to explode in Japan. And this new prime minister, she's getting it all started off by making sure that she increases the value of the currency to make it worthwhile for investors to hold the currency and put the currency to work in Japan. So that's something you've got to be paying attention to. Going into our lovely Bitcoin, where are we at? Quite frankly, I'm going to say something that some of you may or may not like. I don't know if you're going to like it. Why is everyone talking about 8K for? Hold on. Why is everyone talking about 8K Bitcoin? Back when I said it, you all took the piss out of me and you never gave a shit. Now that Michael Saylor says even if Bitcoin were to go to 8K, it's still not a problem. You're all accepting Bitcoin at 8K? How do you think he got the idea? Come on. I've spoken to Michael Saylor. I've had that conversation with him. No one believes that I spoke to him because you never knew. Yeah, I spoke to Michael Saylor. Obviously, I told ChatGPT to pretend to be Michael Saylor, and I says, right, let's have a conversation. I want you to pretend to be Michael Saylor. Anyway, I'm joking. No 8K coming, y'all. Look, listen. What I'm going to say is this, right? Bitcoin hasn't hit capitulation yet. Let me show you something. Hold on. Let me show you something. This is going to put things into perspective for you on cyclically where we are with cryptocurrency. Because if we don't have an event, right, that can lead to a wipe. Listen, $150 million worth of Bitcoin liquidations, no problem. $2 billion worth of liquidations, no problem. We've not yet had the liquidation event for Bitcoin, all right? And that's the thing that's bugging me, all right? So I'm just going to get this chart up for you. What the hell's going on here? Oh, come on. Futures, yeah, that's what it should be. Has anyone actually seen, here we go, the glass node? Yeah, that's what I'm trying to look at here. Oh my God, this is so bad. Okay, for some reason it's not working. Anyways, so there is a chart, all right? It's the net unrealized profits and losses gains for Bitcoin. The last event, okay, was a major, it's the FTX. That was a capitulation event. We have not yet had a capitulation event in Bitcoin. It's been a long time since we've had one. That's really important. What would be a capitulation event for me? Looking at Bitcoin's price, we've got this green vector candle right here. What do you want me to say to you? If you've understood the hybrid system, you'll understand that based on the way the narrative's going, we might have some interesting behavior happening over here. Looking over here. And a capitulation event, in my opinion, would be the 50K spot. That would be a capitulation event. Give or take all the liquidations that could come into play. I mean, if we just go, what the hell? Oh my God, this is unbelievable. Yeah, because I wiped up my computer, that's why. Okay, cool. So let me just sort this out. Why is it not giving me it in dark? You know what? I don't care. Forget it. Right? It's just a bit of a dodgy day today. So have a look at the liquidation heat map, okay? I mean, you got all these liquidity down here at 68,150, okay? And that is one aspect to it. This is on the 3-day chart. Let's go to the monthly to understand where we are with the bigger pools of liquidity, right? Because that's going to put things into perspective for us on where we are with things. So here we go. All right, cool. So down here, that puts us around the 66, 65 region, and then there's not that much happening down here in terms of long. So the market has effectively been shaken out, for the better word, but not yet capitulated. And we don't have enough short liquidations coming into play just yet. I don't believe it. I don't believe that we're done with this range, okay? The only thing that's going to lean Bitcoin to the idea that it may be getting a bit cheaper, if you go over to the weekly time frame, you have got this red vector candle zone right here, and you've got this tap of this 200 EMA. Now, we've got to understand what order flow is saying to us. So let's just go over to the derivatives market bit. Here we go. Order book depth chart, okay? Why doesn't this allow me? Hold on a second. I can't work like this. There we go. Cool. Happy days. Right. Look at this chart here. You've got to understand where we are on the bigger picture of buying and selling. Take the 12-hour order book on depth for market for Bitcoin, okay? And look what we've got here. There has been a reduction in the number of Bitcoin that's being sold on spot. Now, if you look at this area here, okay, 46 million on average, okay? The biggest selling that was happening on Bitcoin, and that's not Bitcoin to the downside. You're getting it wrong. Right, there's the proof right there. This red bar showed a sell order of 130 million. If you're going to give someone anything in this game, all right, you've got to give them the idea and the truth behind buying and selling, the mechanics of it. Anyone that says when price is rising is because the buyers are in control is bollocks. It's bollocks, and I'm saying it twice. Because those buyers can't get anything if no one is selling. You can't walk into a car showroom and demand to buy a car when the dude stood there scratching his balls with a bucket of water and a mop and cleaning up everything with 0 cars on the lot. You're going to say, I want to buy a car. He's going to say to you, I can't sell you one. If you think that when prices are rising, it's because people are buying, it's the wrong people are being sold. You are either exit liquidity or that's it, your exit liquidity. This chart proves that. Anyone that challenges it is a dick. Doesn't make sense. You shouldn't be in trading full stop. If you don't understand the concept between buying and selling, bid and offer, okay? Right there on this little bar right here, someone or a collective had sold $101.95 million worth of Bitcoin at the price of 120,529. Someone bought into that. It's the mechanics. And when you see prices rising, it's because they're offering out. You got loads of people stood there like, yo, okay, this is the best way for me to present it to you, okay? When you decide to go short or long, all right? If you're going to go short, is it better to go short when you're stood right at the bottom, looking up, and you can see that there's all these people that have been selling, and you're like, yeah, man, look at all those people up there. They've been selling. And I'm all the way at the bottom thinking, yeah, well, there's no one down there. I mean, if I sell now, is it going to go lower? I don't, doesn't make sense. You're looking up and you can see that the market's already been selling and selling and selling, and it's sold from where? It's sold from the highest point. So then when you look at the highest point and you look down, you're like, damn, what's down there? Look, all those longs. Wow, look at that. That's why your liquidations for your longs is below and your liquidations for your shorts is at the highs. If you understood that when prices are buying it's because people are buying from who? Then that means your liquidation for your longs would be above and your liquidations for your shorts would be below. That doesn't make sense now, does it? So when you do come across someone that says when prices are rising because people are buying the Bitcoin, just give them a slap across the face, man, 'cause it doesn't make sense. It really doesn't. And there's no one talking about it like this. Or should I say, as brutal as I put it to you. But I know you'll remember this live stream when you do see Bitcoin pumping, you're saying, right, what's going on here? Who's taking control? Why is Bitcoin moving up? Who's buying? Idiots are buying because they think that when prices are rising, you buy. Now, do not confuse the difference between momentum and the behavior of participants. Naturally, you can exploit prices when it's rising because you're riding on the train that the offers are going to keep on getting involved because you've got an intention to get rid of your liquidity because you know that the people that are stepping into Bitcoin, buying it as it's rising, are the dumb guys, okay? You are effectively riding the coattails of the guys who are selling the Bitcoin as it's rising. This is why you've got to ask yourself, why is it that at the highest point, for all my Delta traders, how many people use Delta? Come on. How many people use Delta? I want to know. Sarah, yeah. Don't confuse futures, okay? How many of you understand Delta? How many of you use Delta? How many of you trade Delta? Can I get some likes here? Can I get some taps? Can I get something from you all? You guys? Me. Thank you. Someone's awake. Someone's in this live stream. Yes. I got a yes. Can you explain Delta for a second? I will. Please give your take on HBAR. Cool. Altcoin. Not really. 0.1%. Okay. What is Delta? Wonderful. I got a question there. Yeah, I'll be frank with you. I'm probably the most brutal motherfucker out here when it comes to trading. I will tell you, this game is only for it's not for the get rich quick adventure, and that's Jesse Livermore when he said that over 150 years ago, okay? It's not for your get rich quick adventurer, not at all. This game is about fast in, fast out. You can make some money, get the fuck out, and start again, all right? The longer you leave the capital, the sooner you realize that the market will be offering you that helpful serving of humble pie, all right? We want the American pie, but we don't want to be served humble pie, okay? I use Delta on my calculator. Cool. Gold. Okay, cool. Right. Listen, let me explain something to you. If all of you that know about Delta understand one thing about it, where is the extreme and what does it present? Delta at the highest point. I'm going to show you a chart. I'm going to show this to you. Because for me, it only makes sense, okay? Right. Oh, no, not that one. Wait there. I'm going to show you this trade that I took on NASDAQ a little while ago. And the basis of it shows you exactly what I'm about to say to you right now. Where are you? Where are you? Here we go, this wonderful mother trucker. Here we are. So, I'm going to explain it to you, okay? Delta at the highest point of the chart or the range. And if you take this and leave, ladies and gentlemen, please, I don't mind, all right? If you don't like my tone, at least I know you're going to leave here and you're going to remember it, okay? Whether you come here again. But if you do decide to stay, hit the like button, subscribe, all of that stuff. And then, of course, check out tradersreality.com for more information on this type of trading. Now, Delta, at the highest point, You will always find that those of you that do trade Delta will always know that the Delta is positive at the highest level. Why? Because Delta is programming you to believe that the net difference between buyers and sellers is, when it's positive and it's green, it means that the buyers are in control. Equally, when price is negative and prices drop into the downside, the negative is Delta, which means that the net difference between buyers and sellers is sellers are in control. Because the Delta is negative, it's down. So you, as a little trusty retail trader, come along and say, oh, Delta positive, buy, Delta negative, sell. Wrong. It's never been that. This chart right here puts it into perspective. Look at this, okay? Right here is value area high NASDAQ. Like, that is an entry point, ladies and gentlemen. I opened up 2 contracts on NASDAQ and I made $5,312, on the S&P, okay? And that was because the Delta was at the highest level right there, okay? Because everyone was buying. Everyone was buying. When they're buying at the flipping highs, that's when you sell. That is an example of a sell. That was on the S&P. Let's go over to the NASDAQ. What's this? 10 contracts on the NASDAQ, on the NASDAQ minis and micros. Value area high. Delta was at the most at that level. That is what you call shorting from the extremes of the NASDAQ and the S&P, where they respect the value area high and lows. But the trigger was the Delta, because the Delta was at its strongest level at that point. And we rode this whole move to the downside. Complete shit the bed. All we had to do was wait for NASDAQ. And what else was that? Green vector candle recovery. Done. Okay? So that proves effectively the logic of the Delta. So now ask yourself this question. When you load up your Delta and you have a look at the chart and you see that it's at its most at the highest point, 90% of people will be buying at that point because they saw it pumping up. Look, NASDAQ was pumping. Then it got a little bit chopped. The Delta started to increase here. Absorption coming into play. Traders were exhausted as well. The buyers kept buying and buying because the Delta was saying it's positive. Nah, man, we're opening shorts. 8K on both those moves. Happy days. Done. Just understanding the logic of this. So, let's go back into it. Now you've got this dude right here that has been selling the Bitcoin. Where was it? Let's just go back. Look at this. At the highest point over here, 123,000, right? What was the Delta at that point, ladies and gentlemen? 1.17 million. It was positive. Positive at the highest point. All-time high near enough. And that's where everybody was buying. What I'm trying to say to you guys is Bitcoin is yet to hit levels of extremes. And when you are trading, you have to trade the extremes of Delta, because they're the clues as to who's doing the most of what. And in order for the person to do the most of something, that means someone else had been involved in allowing him to do it, which means when buyers are sellers and sellers are buyers, right? You buy when prices sell, because what happens when you're selling? Yo, my name is Tina. I run this market store and I've got green t-shirts to sell. I'm not going to stand there and be like, yo, my name's Tina. I run the market and I've got green t-shirts to buy. The fuck, how am I going to buy the t-shirt when I'm the vendor? I've got to sell the t-shirts, the green jumpers. It doesn't make sense, does it? You know? You want it, a car showroom won't come out to you and be like, listen, I'm going to buy a car. And I'm like, what? I'm going to buy a car. Don't you sell cars? Yeah, but man, you know, I'm going to buy a car. You're going to look and be like, this guy's a dick. What the hell's wrong with him? I'm meant to buy the car. You're meant to sell it to me. You understand that logic with Bitcoin, then you'll understand that when you see Bitcoin's price, okay, then you'll understand that it's taken a bit of a move to the downside and they are in the process of buying it because it's dropping. They buy it when it drops because people are shitting the bed. We need to get people in that bed, wetting themselves, so upset, so that when we want to start selling to them and restore confidence, Bitcoin will slowly start to bounce around and then zoop, it's time to start buying. Everything comes out. Treasury or Bitcoin, the strategic plan, the Clarity Act, the Genius Act, all of that stuff. Like, happy days. We're not there yet. We're not. All right? Now you've got all these companies that are holding Bitcoin treasury. I mean, look, man, BlackRock's offloading this thing. They're dumping it into Coinbase. Chill. Where's the inflow? I mean, like, yeah, okay, I'll do that. But the only inflow we've got here is gas fees, if I'm not correct. Here you go. Look at this. I mean, that is brilliant. Gas fees, $20, $3, $3, $3 for Ethereum. That's brilliant. $15, $15. But fuck, man, these are inflows, man. Let's go to the outflows. We've got 28 million, 28 million, 28 million, 28 million, 20. And that was 3 months ago. Wait a second. Get rid of this. No. Wrong data. Wait. Right there. There we go. Outflow. 3 hours ago. 7 million, 20 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 million. Like, fucking hell. BlackRock, slow down. But what do you think they're going to do? They're going to sell it when it's rising. That's why we've got the logic of weak bounces. That's why we're still in that rally to the downside, because for every retrace up, it's being met with resistance. Why? Because they're offloading it. I love it when people say the bottom is in, the bottom is in, the bottom is in. Now, what ass are you looking at, bruv? Doesn't make sense. 3-day chart. I mean, look at that. What's going on there? One candle solidifies the whole thing. It eliminates all of your macros. This is what I'm saying to you. This is why Walsh, you know, your new Fed chair dude, he went and condemned Bitcoin, not condemned it. He's pro-Bitcoin, but he said Bitcoin's not a currency. Bitcoin's not deemed as a safe haven. Bitcoin's not this against inflation. Bitcoin's not this yet, because it hasn't been able to stand the test of time. It hasn't. You haven't had a legacy experience just yet. No one comes to me about me experiencing a bear market in Bitcoin. None of you have experienced the full whack. And that's only if people have been in cryptocurrency only and never looked at the legacy markets. All right? Unfortunately, you've got to pay attention to it now, because Bitcoin is subject to it. And over 700,000 Bitcoin is in your ETF. So that's under the control of BlackRock and their clients. What do you want me to say to you? Oh, I sound pissed off today. Okay, then that makes sense. You're breaking my reality right now. You know what? Like, just don't let it bother you guys. You know what? And as everybody says, you know, just hodl, hodl, hodl. That is the cheapest, skankiest, irresponsible thing to say when the markets are so volatile. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Hold. No. Diversify. If you can. All right? Diversify. Hodl, 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 hodl. Okay. I've got 195,000 Bitcoin. Okay? I can't just dump it wherever I want. Or, you know, I've got to hold on to it. I've got to maneuver my Bitcoin. All right? That's where people are coming from when they say, you know, hodl, because Sailor's holding. All right? Cool. Yes, there will be a $10 million Bitcoin, but for the time being, we've got two events that happen all the time. Expansion, contraction, all right? And we're going to experience a number of these expansion, contractionary phases because, macroeconomically speaking, we're in the shit and they're not accepting it. China's just told everyone, don't buy US treasuries. Yields go up, stock market says, okay, no problem. We'll go up from that. Let's just have a look at that. How is the stock market behaving about that? Not great now, is it? The yields, they've just come to accept that China saying that is not really a good idea now. Dump the US treasuries. Oh, okay. They're not interested, are they? Where are they going? Not even going to dollar. Where are they going? Now they're going into euro. All right? Because the consumer retail sales has obviously just given them the heads up that things are slowing down. All right? But unfortunately, that's great news. For who? For Walsh. because now we're seeing that consumers aren't spending money. That means inflation is less likely to go up. Makes sense, doesn't it? So what's that got to do with Bitcoin? Sentiment. Why would you be involved in Bitcoin now? Is it cheap? No. Is money cheap? Clearly not. Google offering 20 billion corporate bonds. Get out of it, man. That's not a sign of a healthy economy, in my opinion, when the stock market has to do it in-house. Anyways, never mind. Questions. Tino, what is your vision on... I keep getting asked about this. Look, you know, when you talk about so many assets, all right, you're going to get some of them wrong. Fuck me, man. I've done all right. I'm quite frankly, I'm done all right. Okay? Gave you gold and silver. Silver at $19, gold at $1,800, $1,900. Okay? Top of that, I introduced you to the quantum computing game itself, QBTS. All right? From the day I started talking about it, that sector rose 1,900%. I got a dude that's made over $200,000-$300,000 just off the back of me saying, check out quantum computing. Came out and reached out to me and told me about it, showed me everything. You are a G, bro. Well done for that. Okay? Circle. All right, man. I've told you it's a long-term play. You're not looking at the bigger picture of things with Circle. The same thing happened to Coinbase, and that was when crypto was booming. Everything in Coinbase, it just dropped. Initial public offering came in $355, $400, slumped. It's come all the way back up. Circle's going to have its time. They would not be still trading over 11 million shares a day if they didn't have any expectation from it. Fund ownership wouldn't increase from 12 to 454. All right? Fund owners are playing 32% of the stock, if I'm correct. 32. Wait a sec. I'll bring it up for you now. Here we go. Where are we at with it? Oh, come on. It's taking forever to do this. Here we go. Right. Okay. Circle. CRCL. Here we go. How many fund owners are playing this right now? 442. Right? That's where we are with it. Increasing. Funds play 19% of the stocks on the in float. Why am I so optimistic about this company? Because they owe fuck all. That's why. 2% debt. They ain't subject to interest rates. They don't need to worry about it. All right? This is going to take a little while. But because we're so fixated on erectile parabolic candles and we want that meme coin behavior in Bitcoin, you're not going to get it in the stock market, guys. No chance. It takes a while. IPO, yes. Only something mad has to happen to get a parabolic move in crypto, in the stock market. All right? Just remember that. Bitcoin, where you going? Anyways. Tino, it's difficult when you ain't full-time to diversify into the latest trick. I understand that. I do understand that. Look, let's put it like this, okay? How many of you are traders? How many of you come to the chart and are like, yeah, but Tether's Chinese and they don't like it. How many of you day trade? How many of you hold Bitcoin, but you do try and trade on the side? How many of you do that? I'm not angry. Don't confuse my anger with passion. Don't confuse it. Bitcoin's going down. Look at it. It's moving lower, isn't it? What should I expect if I put 10K into Circle for the next 5 years? You're asking me what the weather's going to be like in the next 5 years. That's what you're asking me. 10 years, I couldn't tell you. But by the logic of market cycles, expansion, contraction, that's where it's at. Expansionary phases, the stock market goes up. Contractionary phases, the stock market goes down. That's it. Me. Okay, spot swing. Okay. Check the Fed watch. They rise the probability to no cuts to 80%. I know that. Yeah. Of course it would. because the data came out suggesting that it's going to be reducing inflation. So if that's going to be working, then we don't need to cut. That's the whole point of the data. If the data came out today saying, right, let's put it into perspective. If the data came out today saying that core retail sales came in higher, right, that means we don't need to worry about the economy. So that means we can keep the rates higher for longer. With the data that came out today suggesting that core retail sales came in lower, and it was actually terrible, it shows that consumers themselves are what? Not spending. So if they're not spending, what are we doing? We're containing inflation. So we don't need to cut the rates at all just yet because we're allowing them to do the business of getting inflation lower. So by keeping inflation or keeping the interest rates at the levels that they are right now, it means that we're forcing people to not use money. Inflation goes down. Capish? What I'm trying to say to you guys is this. When you're trading, okay, if you're in a position where you're in Bitcoin spot and what have you, okay, you need to be in a position to try and effectively work various asset classes. That's what I mean about diversification from an investor's point of view, trading point of view, okay? Right, okay, cool, yeah. BTCC lets you do that, all right? It lets you trade that. They've got a TradeFi section right now, okay? TradeFi area where all the assets that you would normally trade, okay, like the NASDAQ, the euro, gold, silver, oil, that's in that section right there. You got gold, you got Nvidia, you got all of it there, okay? Metals, commodities, indices, Forex, stocks, they are all there. Indices, and one indice that you do need to be trading right now, ladies and gentlemen, is the Nikkei, okay? Going into the indices, that is, where is it? The Nikkei, the Japan, it should be coming up as Japan. Where is it? Don't tell me you've taken it off. UK, German tech, they've taken it off. I swear I'm going to lose my shit if they did. Right, I'm not happy about that. They've taken off the Nikkei. Why have you taken off the Nikkei? No, don't tell me you've taken it off. Oh, but anyways, and you trade Bitcoin on this as well. What I'm trying to say is using macro data, the legacy market sentiment, and if you've got your crypto, okay, you can bounce between the assets because crypto doesn't have anything for you to diversify in other than going in and you putting your money in USDT. Well, why don't you put that USDT to work on other asset classes that will always rotate? You've got the option of stocks, Forex, indices. So if the dollar itself, if the idea, right, that the Japanese yen is going to be going down, okay, that means you can short euro. Because if the yen's going down, that means the dollar's going up. That means euro's going down. You short euro. The Royal Bank of Australia have just recently come out saying that, or coming across with a little bit of a hawkish tone. That means you could technically go long on Aussie dollar because the yield over there is getting higher. Yeah? Links in the description. You'll get a 15% deposit bonus if you check it out via the link. All right? And you don't need a VPN for it. But this is where I trade. When I want to take advantage of swing trades, I come over here and I play the game. I play the logic. Bitcoin's not really moving. Look at this dead movement on Bitcoin. Not going anywhere, all right? Then you go over to the NASDAQ, which is the Tech 100 over there, all right? NASDAQ's going sideways, but you saw yesterday it pumped up nicely. You can get a wider range of movement on the NASDAQ. You can get a wider range of movement on oil. Where's oil? Let's just have a look at oil. Come on. Where's my oil tab? Here we go. Oil, all right? Quite choppy, but okay, it's prone to news, but you do get wide swings in oil, all right? Euro. Look at that. Nice movement. Of course, you got to check out the pound because all that madness is going off. And of course, the volatility index is trading positive sideways. Like, you're not going to get much. You're not going to get much today, in my opinion, because of non-farm payrolls. But do we get the idea, ladies and gentlemen? Do we get the idea? I hope you do. But anyways, what time is it? It's 10 to. That's a bit too long. Listen, mad love and respect, guys. Forgive me for the rant, but I know I hopefully made a bit of an impression on you all. Just remember, trade extremes, okay? Pay yourselves, fast in, fast out, all right? And just remember, when there is a buyer, there's a seller. And when there's a seller, there's a buyer. And you've got to work out who's allowing it to happen and how much more of are they allowing it, all right? That means when price is rising, don't confuse yourself and think it's the buyers. It's not. You're only allowed to buy if there's someone there to sell. That's why there will always be a supply in the marketplace, because there's always someone there to make a market happen. Mad love and respect, ladies and gentlemen. Peace.